Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Kali, Colombia at Sham Ashram, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Thursday's Srimad Bhagavatam study, helping us apply spiritual yogic principles to our regular Kali Yuga life and see if we can find some balance. You know, it's not like a good thing. It's like saying changing the oil of your car is a good thing. It's not like it's good. That's what you do when you get a car. You know, when you practice yoga and try to imbibe wisdom, this is what you do. That's what you're supposed to do when you have a body vehicle. You got to figure out how to balance it, or else it's going to be wrecked, trashed, drive off the cliff. We've been there. We've driven off a few cliffs, right? Mara's definitely has. Look at Kaustubha. What do you think about our Patreon class yesterday?
I thought it was nice. I enjoyed it. The astrology one?
Yeah, we had an astrology overview with Radhikesh Prabhu, who's did a great interview on interview day last week. And I think we got a lot of very positive feedback from our walk on Wednesday, the walk on Wednesday with Anna from Colombia. It just kept on going. It was the walk on Wednesday that kept on going.
Kept walking.
Yeah, they kept on walking. But yeah, it was really touching. And I think these stories, when people really apply spiritual truth to their life, it's important to like repeat, because it gives us encouragement on our path as well. So if you haven't heard yesterday's Anna's near-death experience walk on Wednesday, I mean, she's only really been into this for about a year. She went to her first kirtan 1 year ago yesterday. And then the material world started falling apart. And somehow, due to her connection with the ashram down here and her faith in her teacher, Shamasundari, it just became more and more beautiful as the world was falling apart. And the world will. You know, what we think is so solid is meant to crumble. And the real solid in this world is the subtle. Write that down, man. The real subtle is the subtle. The real subtle is the subtle. You like that, Kaustubha?
The solid is the solid. Let me marinate on that for a little
marinate
while.
on that one.
Fluff it out.
The solid is the subtle. The solid melts.
Melts. Then it becomes liquid.
Liquid solid.
Subtle. What happens to the subtle?
Hey, I've got a good faith story from the Mahabharata. I think you'll like.
Faith, okay.
You know, rolling off Anna's faith. She had like unflinching faith in her. I'm going to be a spoiler alert here. Mm-hmm. Anna, while she left her body, she was hearing her teachers chanting of the Maha Mantra in her, I can't even say her subconscious. She's already dead. What is that? Your subconscious?
Well,
it's not your subconscious.
She was conscious, even though it might have appeared that there was no consciousness in her body.
Those symptoms of life, right? Yeah. The lungs stopped working, the heart stopped beating, her ribs got crushed, but she heard them. Yes. Oh, can you put up Anna's Instagram handle? You're gonna have about 1,000 more followers today. Get her Instagram. So anyway, here's the story. We'll put it up soon. Here's the story. Okay, so you know how grandfather Bhishma, who's famous for his vow taking and oath taking, what he said was he was getting goaded by. Hey, you guys think there's a party going on here? What's going on? She does not even on Instagram. Okay, that's beautiful. That's why she can focus on God at the time of death, because she has no Instagram account.
That's right.
There's a lesson there. It's a deep lesson I won't listen to. Okay, so grandfather Bhishma, famous for his vows, was getting pressure from Duryodhana. Duryodhana was saying, "Oh, you're favoring these sons of Pandu. Why won't you take them down? You're favoring them and you're betraying the Kuru dynasty."
This was in the battle, you're saying.
This is in the battle. Yeah, and Arjuna's fighting against his grandfather, the Pitamaha Bhishma.
Whom Bhishma loved Arjuna, right?
Bhishma loved Arjuna. And he said, "Okay, Duryodhana, I have to do my duty. I'm going to kill Arjuna tomorrow, or I'm going to be killed." Now, the rumor got out. It went viral. And Krishna heard this. And Krishna, who's, of course, Arjuna's best friend, he's thinking, oh my God, I made a vow to protect Arjuna. What am I supposed to do? And I made a vow also that I will not fight in this war. But no one can beat grandfather Bhishma. He's the most powerful. He's wiping out everyone. And so Krishna went to bed that night, and he's just worried the next day. His friend is Arjuna. Should I break my vow? Should I pick up weapons? And then he's tossing and turning. And in the middle of the night, he's like, I can't sleep anymore. I'm going to go wake up Arjuna. He must be really upset right now. His grandfather's made about to kill him. And he goes and he sees Arjuna is sleeping. He's sound asleep. Why? And so he went, Arjuna, wake up, it's Krishna. And Arjuna said, what is the matter, my lord? He said, you must know. I cannot sleep. Bhishma, your grandfather has made a vow to kill you. And Arjuna says, yes, I'm knowing. He says, you're knowing. Why aren't you worried? He says, Krishna, if you're worried about me, why should I worry? You've got some worries. You just give them to Krishna. Isn't that true? You got some worries? Let Krishna take on your worries. He'll figure everything out for you. You need not worry. Krishna's got you. You like that one?
I do like that one.
Mara, who are you text messaging?
I'm doing takeaways, Prabhu.
Oh, sorry. She was appreciating. I thought she was like, this is boring. I'm going to text somebody. See, this is what's good when I don't see Mara. She's doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Now I'm right here. I'm thinking she's diverted. You like that one?
I thought it was nice. I think that we heard Anna's story yesterday, and that was quite extreme. You know,
it was quite extreme.
All the details: leukemia and bone marrow transplant, and
husband leaving,
having to care for a child as a single mother.
Child was a preemie.
COVID. You know,
then she got COVID. Lungs stopped working.
The lungs stopped working. I mean, that's always problematic when the lungs stop working.
That's a problem.
That's a challenge. And so those are extreme challenges, and you can see she's got a very unique ability to pass through it without, quite soberly, and with like a yogi, like this is the point, deriving realization, and for the Bhakti yogis, our realization has so much to do with our faith. In other words, that deepening of the conviction that I know the material world is going to fall apart. I know my body is going to fall apart. I know all the structures that we've created, both physical as well as societal structures and all of that, that whatever support they may be providing is time bound. And they're all going to start to slip away. And I know for sure that the force of time works in such a way where it won't be long until everything falls apart, including my body. And what will I be holding on to then? Where will my faith be? And so here's Arjuna, who's about to, he's on a battlefield, and the word gets out. The most powerful of all warriors has vowed that he's going to kill you tomorrow. And
right? Wouldn't you be worried?
It's a terrifying vow.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his connection to Krishna was so deep. No problem.
No problem. Krishna, you got this.
Now, here's a question for you, Raghu, in relation to this. But how can Krishna be worried? He's God himself. He's all-powerful, right? Omnipotent. What's that? Why is he? How could he? If you're omnipotent, how can you be worried?
I think the idea is Krishna isn't worried, but he manifests this worry to demonstrate his concern. I think the real principle is Krishna is concerned. He's Bhakta Vatsal. For those who are very, very devoted to him, he is extremely devoted to them. He's more devoted to us than we are devoted to him. And so when people develop this real loving affection, he's like your bestest buddy. He's your bestie. Krishna's your bestie. I think that's the takeaway. Krishna's your bestie.
Bestie meaning that he's got love for Arjuna, and he is controlled by that love.
You see it in a parent. You see he's controlled by love. There you go.
By love. So he
wants.
See
it in a parent.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The parent has more concern for the child than the child has concern. The child's like sort of it's mixed with a lot of need. And then when a child gets to an age where they don't need anymore, sometimes you don't hear so much from the child. But a mother or a father, they're always a good mother and good father. They always have that concern. The child can call from anywhere. Mom, I've got a stomach ache. Oh, you got a stomach ache? What do you need? What can I get you? Like the parents have extra concern. That's the nature of the parent. So that micro can be seen in the macro. Krishna has exponentially more concern for us than we care for him. And we show a little bit of devotion, and Krishna's like, okay, he's in. Krishna is waiting by the phone like this. If you could see me, I've got my hands on my cheeks. He's waiting for that phone to ring. Are you going to call? Are you going to reach out? And then the devotee picks up the bead bag. Hare Krishna. Krishna, my devotee's calling. Krishna's eager for that call.
Well, it's one of the great mysteries, in bhakti, this idea that the all-powerful becomes controlled or even defeated by love. Right? Mm-hmm. It's what the sages, they ponder this, they discuss this, they ponder it, and it's so relevant for people in our day and age where we have so much hesitation, to conceive of God in a personal way, because we have so much problem with authority and so we've been exposed to mistreatment or disappointment, but the idea that omnipotent being voluntarily submits and becomes controlled even by the force of love, that's a very beautiful concept. It's something really worthy of contemplation.
We're going to have to bring back that old analogy of, when I was little, we used to watch Judge Judy. And Judge Judy, I always feared being in front of Judge Judy. Raghunath, you shouldn't have done that. And she's just like hammering you and hammering you and hammering you. Lord Krishna is not Judge Judy.
No.
Lord Krishna is a little baby love, right? And we get some karma.
Mayor's noting that down.
Mayor's right. Lord Krishna is not Judge Judy. He's a genius.
He's a genius.
He's a great pundit. Lord Krishna is not Judge Judy. He's not authoritarian. He's not a tyrant. He's not, Pol Pot, Mussolini, Mao. He is a sweet baby.
He's the most controlled by love. Not only is he controlled, right? He's the most controlled by love.
Yeah. And in fact, he's we're creating our own karma because we're driving on the road without it. We're blowing through stop signs, running red lights, driving on the wrong side of the highway, knocking over the guardrails. We don't know how to drive in this material world. So all these yamas and niyamas, they're all just like driving lessons. We're getting driving lessons on how to move throughout this world. Just so we can have peace, so we can function. It's got nothing to do with Krishna. Those are just the laws of the material world.
All right. Thank you for that nugget.
It was a good nugget, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know why it was so good? It wasn't mine, Prabhu. It was the Mahabharata. It was Veda Vyasa's.
There's so much. What we're talking about is rasa, right? It's that esoteric side of bhakti with the love, the varieties of love and how they're expressed and so on. And when we think of rasa shastra, like books that deal with, it's like Bhagavatam and other books that are dealing with Krishna's intimate leelas and Vrindavan. But there's so much rasa in Mahabharata, isn't there?
Yeah. By the way, that was like
Arjuna.
That was like an 80s dance band. We're varieties of love from London.
Okay.
Opening for New Order tonight.
A bit of a stretch, but okay. The accent made up for it.
Thank you. I threw in the accent halfway in. I was like, they're probably from London. Yeah. They're probably from London, one of the dance bands.
or maybe from some, more
Birmingham,
Manchester, or something
Nottingham,
like that.
Manchester. All right.
All right, shall we get into Bhagavatam? Even though
Yeah.
that I'm sure that little what you shared with us right there was Bhagavatam, no question.
Yes.
Varieties of love.
It's all Bhagavatam. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati vaishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated. In loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 2, Text 32. 33. You know what I liked, Kaustubha, yesterday about Radhikesh's astrology class was because there's a lot of people that don't have their birth time. For some reason, their hospital didn't write it down, or they were adopted and they just don't know. They have the birth date, they know where they were born, but you can figure it out by just seeing different life events in the person, especially if the person's an adult. When they got married, or if they were divorced, or when there was a sickness, you can figure all that out. Mm-hmm. I just thought I'd share that with you. That's appreciate it. It has nothing to do, non sequitur. It was not part of what we were talking about, but
I'm going to come up with a new term, Raghunath, because it happens regularly, and I think we should actually do some statistical analysis on this. But just as we're about to start reading Bhagavatam, you jump on a squirrel and go somewhere else. Right when we're just about... Okay, we're reading from text 33, and by the way, you run off on a squirrel. It's interesting.
Bros, Kaustubha. Or we're frozen. Were we frozen, or were you frozen? Oh. I was like the Lord. Oh, yeah, it was us.
I got the 5G over here.
Oh, really? We got like 2G using an iPhone 3.
But hey, why don't we do a little bit of a recap here? All right.
Okay.
Because we got the very end of the chapter here. We got 3 verses left, and in this chapter we saw conflict, right? And really had kind of like 2 groups of people that the conflict came between. Daksha, who kind of represents that conservative side, he walked into the assembly. Lord Shiva and his followers, which in a sense we could say the liberals, and I'll explain why I'm saying that in a bit. But Lord Shiva was there. Everybody got up and respected Daksha, but Lord Shiva didn't stand up. Mm-hmm. Now, why he didn't stand up, we may hear about today. It's an interesting. It's an interesting piece of information. But for whatever reason, Daksha did not appreciate that Shiva, and not only did he not appreciate that Shiva didn't stand up, he became furious. He lost it.
Lost his cool.
He lost his cool. He became angry, so angry that he began to curse Lord Shiva, and he just went on a tirade, insulting him publicly. It was brutal. Yeah. And then he cursed him, right? He cursed Lord Shiva.
And any follower of Lord Shiva didn't want to hear that, so they counter-cursed.
They got up, and there's a character named Nandishwara who was like one of the close associates of Lord Shiva. He got up, he started severely criticizing not only Daksha, but all the Brahmanas who didn't stand up and oppose what he was saying. So he cursed the entire Brahminical community practically, and he had some good insights. From a liberal perspective, you could say. Yeah, and why I say that is like the conservative perspective also, this is really interesting because we're going to see how Shiva responds to this. Nandishwar got up and he started cursing the Brahmanas. Then another person from the Brahminical community, from that side of the fence, got up, Bhrigu, right? Really important figure. And Bhrigu got up and he started cursing the followers of Lord Shiva. And so, the conservative mentality, it embraces certain values like respect for authority or conforming to tradition. And so when Daksha, he's a conservative in many ways, right? Like he's a rule follower and he sees value in that, and that virtue is achieved, through conformity to tradition and so on. And there's
a partial truth in that. And there's a partial truth in that.
There's truth in that. And so he interpreted Shiva's not rising as, part, and of course he had these turbo scenarios going on. That's his son-in-law. He's not pleased by the way he dress. He doesn't dress according to tradition, right? He doesn't seem to behave according to tradition, and he can't calculate. For him, it means he's not deeply spiritual. He hasn't attained deep virtue. And then the liberal side, it has more to do with like, it has a aversion for like arbitrary discrimination, right? Just because he's dressed that way doesn't mean he's not a great soul, Which there's truth in that too, There's people that are like highly evolved. They're morally diverse, they can see the value on both sides and try to balance it, But here we didn't have that going on. We had, people. There was the polarity, people tightly clinging to their particular side of an issue and battling it out, and it got ugly.
It gets ugly. You make offenses. You don't put the main thing anymore. I mean, here they are at a religious ritual.
Yeah, right.
And they end up fighting. A war goes on, and basically it's a cancel culture going on back and forth.
Trying to cancel each other.
Trying to cancel each other with curses.
And
the
curse canceling. This is curse culture.
Curse culture. It's much worse than cancel culture. It could result in many, many deaths going on. And
Okay.
And maybe losing your head to the head of a goat. Imagine
that
it's one thing to get cancel cultured on Facebook. It's another thing to get cancel cultured on Facebook, and then you get a head of a goat, which is coming up in the next couple of chapters.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So
right.
now we're good. Now we're going to get to this next verse. We're going to get to a morally diverse person, a highly evolved person, and we're going to see their response to all of this. Did they take a side? Did they jump in and start swinging and start cursing? How does Lord Shiva respond? And he was the person that was like most insulted. Right?
He was the most insulted.
He was the person that had this, that sat there and heard a tirade against his character, unfair tirade against his character.
Did he go? Did he strike back with revenge? Was it spite? Yeah. Did he lose his cool? Right?
Did he defend himself?
Did he start his own Facebook page?
Yeah, like, hey, I wear these skulls because there's a damn good reason why I wear this.
Did he defend? Yeah, necklace. Did he defend himself?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Text
Let's
32.
See what he has to say. 33.
Text 33. The sage Maitreya said, when such cursing and counter-cursing was going on between Lord Shiva's followers and the parties of Daksha and Bhrigu, Lord Shiva became very morose. Not saying anything, he left the arena of the sacrifice, followed by his disciples.
Okay, let's read the purport to this, Raghu. Hit it.
Sure. Mara's hidden it. Mara's like my arms. Here, Lord Shiva's excellent character is described. In spite of the cursing and counter-cursing between the parties of Daksha and Lord Shiva, because he is the greatest Vaishnava, he was sober, and he did not say anything. A Vaishnava is always tolerant, and Lord Shiva is considered the topmost Vaishnava. So his character, as shown in the scene, is excellent.
What's the verse? Vaishnava, that he's the highest Vaishnava? You know
Vaishnava Yata Shambhu.
Vaishnava Yata Shambhu.
Something like yes.
Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava.
And so he became morose, and because he knew that these people, both his men and Daksha's, were unnecessarily cursing and counter-cursing one another without any interest in spiritual life. From this point of view, he did not see anyone as lower or higher because he's a Vaishnava. As stated in the Gita, Pandita Sama Darshina. One who is perfectly learned does not see anyone as lesser or greater because he sees everyone from a spiritual platform. Thus, the only alternative left to Lord Shiva was just to leave in order to stop his follower, Nandishwar, as well as Bhrigu Muni, from cursing and counter-cursing in that way. Kaustubha, could you say that Lord Shiva took no offense. He just says, I'm not going to take offense. You can continue with this if you want, but I'm going to leave. I'm not going to be angry here.
Or even it says, part of the reason why he left was he saw it as the way to kind of like stop the cursing.
De-escalate?
De-escalate.
De-escalate?
Exactly. Yeah, that was his way of
defund Lord Shiva. Defund Lord Shiva. Not the defund Lord Shiva. He's trained in de-escalation.
He was
de-escalating. I'm just going to go away. Yes.
Yeah, and so even though he was the one that was most directly insulted, and even though his own followers were standing up and defending him, he didn't even have interest in his own followers defending him because he could just see this whole thing was there was no
there's no win.
How did Prabhupada say that they had no interest in spirituality or something like that?
I remember
said something like that in the
there's no win in the. We're joking, but it's like Facebook. It's people fighting back and forth. You really think you're going to get to some solid conclusion by writing your 2-sentence reply?
No progress being made, right?
No progress.
He said he became morose because he knew that these people, both his men and Daksha's, were unnecessarily cursing and counter-cursing one another without any interest in spiritual life, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's Lord Shiva's response as he gets up. Now, we're going to hear more from Lord Shiva in the following chapter. He's going to sit down with, because of certain circumstances, he's going to have to sit down with his wife, Sati, who is Daksha's daughter. And he's going to have to explain why he didn't get up. And he's going to begin to share his realizations about the depth of Daksha's hostility. So, let's continue.
Text 34. The sage Maitreya continued. O Vidura, all the progenitors of the universal population thus executed a yajna, a sacrifice, for thousands of years. For sacrifice is the best way to worship the Supreme Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. I guess you must live thousands and thousands of years.
Lifetimes.
They had long lives. Okay.
Different time scale.
That's it. That's a nice way to put it. Different time scale. Yeah. Maybe it's thousands of our earthly years.
But how they experienced it may not have been like the way that we experienced it. I'm not sure. But, this last verse kind of shows, it was a big mess. And you can imagine that within the hearts of everybody there was just feelings of, how would you describe it? Like kind of empty, you had a big celebration, spiritual, celebration. And
it's like a wedding fail,
Yeah.
Bride is dancing at the wedding. She trips. She falls through the cake. It's like, what do you do after that?
Yeah. And so what they did, it's interesting. This is an interesting thing. Like when you get that kind of melancholy from like, maybe I misbehaved even, or others are misbehaving, and the whole atmosphere has become polluted in some way. How do you respond? The way that they responded was, let's focus on worshiping God. Let's do this.
Right.
This ceremony.
Let's bring it back. Sometimes I'll go off on a squirrel, believe it or not. I'll go off on a squirrel and I'll take it down to some crazy, crazy alley and I'll start talking about all crazy. I say, okay. And then it becomes the end of class. I'll be like, okay, we gotta end on a high note. Let's bring it back. Tell some Krishna Leela or something like that. So yeah. So what happened is everything is sort of soured. You have this lovely event. Let's raise it up a notch. That's what they try to do. Let's wind it up by chanting mantras to the personality of Godhead for a few thousand years, and that should take care of it.
And for a few thousand years, but that's really here's a technique, right? Here's a spiritual technique, Raghu, and I know you do this too. Is like when we find where the hell's my mind right now? Like I was just subjected to something that was like polluting to my mind. I was just subjected to some atmosphere which increased hostility in me or increased melancholy in me, for some reason.
And there's real pollutants out there, huh?
There's plenty of them. It's a dirty world out there.
It's a dirty world.
That's a T-shirt right there. It's a dirty world.
Back of the shirt, lots of pollutants out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
wear that. We'll just keep the front. Just keep the front shirt.
Okay.
Okay, go on.
So what do we do? What do you do with your mind when you finally kind of realize, hold it, this is getting dirty, right? It's
Right.
like, yeah, you bring your mind to mantra, you bring your mind to shlokas, right? That's why people should
Chant
join
a chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Boom, you're clean.
Yeah,
It's like taking a
yeah.
bath.
Join Nityananda Chandra's shloka chanting group on Patreon, and get some of these tools to carry around with you, and you just meditate. You just stop for a second. You close your eyes, you take a deep breath, and you begin to chant Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukhopa Vriksha. You just start
Right.
chanting.
You
these
learn some
verses.
mantras, some prayers, and it has that scrubbing effect on the
It's
consciousness.
a snana, right? It's a bath.
It's a mental snana.
Yeah, it's a snana.
Snana's a bath.
That's right. Okay, so they did that through doing their way of doing that for these brahmanas was to chant these mantras and perform this sacrifice. And text 35, it seems like, oh, they didn't
Slight
talk
squirrel
about
here,
snana.
sir. Slight
Yeah,
squirrel.
slight
Have you ever
squirrel.
heard pulling your right earlobe is like a snana?
They have all kind of things that they do.
Pull your right earlobe. It's like cleansing yourself.
Okay, I don't know, but I'll tell you something. There may be some subtle principle at work there, but it's not as powerful as like Maha Mantra or
No,
like
it's not as
Bhagavatam
powerful as Maha
Shloka,
Mantra, but
right? Yeah,
I've heard that all the holy rivers reside in the earlobe. Have you heard that?
that's why the brahmanas wrap their Brahminical thread around their ear when they go to the bathroom to preserve the
I thought
purity of the thread.
thought it wouldn't go into the urinal.
Well,
But,
it has
okay,
two.
that makes even more
It
sense.
has two. It's practical, and
It's
more
practical
esoteric,
and-
application.
And isn't that why the Brahmin boys get the ear pierced in childhood?
I don't know that.
It's all coming at the ears, the mystical earlobes.
Okay.
Okay,
But-
little
so-
squirrel, but interesting.
little
But
bit of
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And now
Sometimes it's worth taking a detour to see the
Okay,
sights.
all right.
You get
Raghunath,
off
you
the
did your
freeway,
squirrel, but
Kaustubha.
now you're defending your squirrel. You don't no need to defend.
Sometimes you
your
got to pull off, check out the village you're driving through, get back on the. I know we're back on the highway. We're here.
Okay. So at text 35, we hear it seems like they're a little bit purified. They purify them. It took 1,000 years of mantra chanting, but they got a little purified.
Feeling good.
They wrap
Text
it up.
35. My dear Vidura, carrier of bows and arrows, all the demigods who were performing the sacrifice took their bath at the confluence of the Ganga and the Yamuna. After completing the yagya performance, such a bath is called Avabrita Snana. After thus becoming purified in heart, they departed for the respective abodes.
So they did become purified at heart.
Yeah. And then they took a bath in the Ganga and the Yamuna. How
Yeah, both
powerful.
of
What a
them.
what
Yeah.
a confluence.
So they
Getting
chanted
ba-
mantras and they
Yeah.
bathed in the holy river. The holy rivers in the confluence. of the
Holy
holy
rivers.
So okay. So that at least it
I
ended.
want to go
on
back
a
and
bit of
I
a
want to
high
go
note.
back in time, man.
Just
back in
bathe
time.
those rivers, chanting
Yeah,
those
when
mantras.
everything was pure and there was just Brahmins by the Ganga and the Yamuna and it was clean. You could just bathe in the waters
Sometimes
and
you go to places like South India and you see the remnants of that Brahminical culture.
yeah.
It's
If you're thinking about
something.
going to India, you got to go soon. Who knows how fast? When me and Kaustubha used to go, there was no highways. There's highways. On the way to Mathura, there is a Starbucks on the way to Mathura. Come on.
What?
As I said, I was like, oh, this is horrible. And I was like, well, I'll take a tall
Vente, whatever they're called.
venti latte with soy milk, please.
And there's some hipster Indian behind the counter. Like,
There is. It wasn't like that.
what was that
Oh,
place we
man.
used to go? That used to be the break. Something Dab. What was it? Hari Dab or something on the
Oh, the Dubba. The Dubba.
the Dubba. What was that?
Those Dubbas are like
It was
little
just-
sort of roadside shacks.
A little road.
So
station.
good.
Give you a paratha. Or,
Give me pratha, some khichdi, a little chai.
yeah, those are the days, right?
Oh man, you got to go. You got thinking about going to India. Go soon. 3 years. And after that, it's going to be like going to New York.
All right.
All
All right.
right.
Next chapter. That concludes
That's it?
Canto 4,
All
Chapter
right.
2.
Next chapter is a good one. Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. What did they say?
What did they say?
Should we start? Text 1.
Yeah, let's start it up.
Maitreya continued. I've noticed I touch my face a lot. I got to stop
Yeah,
that.
That's called a squirrel. You see, every time we're about to get into it, you go on a squirrel. What is that, Raghu?
I don't know. Maitreya continued. In this manner, the tension between the father-in-law and the son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period, right? They're related.
Tension.
They're related. And how are you going to, family feuds. When Lord Brahma appointed Daksha, the chief of the Prajapatis, the progenitors of population, Daksha became very much puffed up.
Okay,
Puffed up is like proud.
He became proud. And you know, why was Lord Brahma the most intelligent being in the universe?
Right.
He says, Daksha's a qualified guy. I'm going to give him an important position, an important role to play, right? It means he's no ordinary guy. He's a person, a highly qualified person. And that's a good thing, you know, but that pride, you know, because look where he ends up. Just, you know, spoiler alert, but it has already been mentioned. You know,
he's going to have a head of a goat.
His head is going to be cut off, and he's going to have it replaced with the head of a goat. All right. So, you know,
some of you are thinking, what?
Yeah.
It's actually going to happen.
It's going to happen. And it's all real, right, Raghu?
Why not? You can have a head of a goat.
And so he's this very qualified person, but that pride just ruins everything, you know? And so in one sense, no matter how high your qualification goes, its value becomes lost, even no matter how high it goes, if pride enters in. And particularly when that pride plays out as causing offense to others, right?
A big thing for
disrespect to others.
It's a big thing for everybody, especially on the yogic path, because one thing the yogic path, even in its very, very tiny stages, I start doing yoga asanas. What happens? Your body becomes more beautiful, more attractive, more, you know, you develop a yoga glow, a buzz. You get some, then as you develop it further, you become incredibly peaceful, shanti, and then your face becomes soft. You start to develop sort of some knowledge first that becomes wisdom. People start to look up to you, and all of a sudden you think, yes, I'm very, very wise. I'm the guru here. And
they're not so wise.
They're not so wise. Let me instruct you. I can help you. I can help you, Bunky. It's good having Bunky here. Missed him.
Yeah. And then offense sets in at that point. Disrespect of others, right?
Yeah. You start to realize, you start to forget that everything that we have is the mercy of someone else. You start thinking it's mine. Oh, it's because I'm very wise. I'm very knowledgeable. I am very beautiful and sexy. You know, we start to take all this on as ours when all of it's a gift and it can be taken away in a moment. And you know what takes it away? Pride takes it all away. Pride makes us relinquish everything.
You know, the important Bhagavatam commentator and saint and author,
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Try to say it before you.
He wrote this book, the Madhurya Kandambini, that describes like the different. It goes into very interesting detail about like the path of bhakti and the stages that a person goes through on that path. And it mentions this, that very early on that path, like you take to that path and you hit the stage called utsaha-mayi.
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 And then what happens?
Utsaha means like with enthusiasm, right? And utsaha-mayi means like you get this false, enthusiastic, false pride, you know, like pride that you're not even really worthy of, or, you know, but you become proud, you become puffed up with enthusiasm. And it's so ironic, isn't it, that like we say, oh, I've found my path. Then we begin to follow it a little bit. And we have some enthusiasm for the path. So we begin to, you know, like practice the externals of it. And then we begin to look at everybody else and even the people that are on that path, but we see like maybe the externals, they're not as they don't appear to be as following the externals as strictly as I am right now. And then you become puffed up with enthusiasm, right? Mm-hmm. Even though you're the least advanced on the path, you're thinking you're the most advanced on the path, and you're really nowhere, right? So that pride, you know, it's really the enemy of our spiritual practice. And so here's Daksha. He's this very materially qualified person, but he's in some ways on the spiritual end, he's lacking, and is manifesting here as pride. Okay.
Been there, done that. Hmm?
Me too. Me too.
No,
Still
I'm
do it.
serious. I've actually been there and done that.
Hmm.
You remember that story when I almost got in a fight in the air? I was a brahmachari. Almost got in a
Wanna go
fight in the airport with the guy in the airport.
Well, I was thinking about that when we
Were you
'cause
thinking
our
about
flight-
that when he said utsaha-mayi?
No,
Were
I
you
was
thinking about that? That's where Raghunath.
No, I was not thinking about that.
I'm not offended. I was.
I was thinking about that when we were in the airport and our flight got canceled.
You thought I was going to lose my cool?
Because I thought it was funny because we'd met Hannah Brinkhouse for the first time because she's been listening to the show so we've known her as a Zoomer for a very long time, but we've never met her in personally. And the first time we meet her is in the airport, right?
Right.
And then I was thinking, imagine it's like saying, "Okay, I'm with these wisdom and sages people, and
They're
like
very
spiritual
wise,
and
very deep and
they've
spiritual. And
embraced all
Raghunath's
these-
running around. Yeah!
My flight gets canceled. Don't you know who I am?"
I didn't say that.
I know, but you did the original time, right, or something like that.
I didn't even want to say it. I can't even say it. I can't even tell that story
Is
anymore.
it in your
It's just
book?
Like,
Is it in the book?
I might have put a peppered, a sanded down version of it.
Okay.
It was really humiliating.
All right.
It was when I
so
really,
we're all prone to that.
really thought I was a sadhu too.
And that airport person did not
Doesn't
recognize your
And my
advancement.
importance sort of
Because what did they
mocked
do?
me.
They told you had to pay for your bag or the weight.
Look,
of
I
the
was
bag?
volunteer. I was in the airport for 36 hours back when you could do that.
Yeah.
And I was just like, because my flights kept on getting canceled, and I just started saying, I'm going to accept this as Krishna's mercy. And I'm starting chanting extra rounds and fasting. And it was just like this one. And I had all these trunks that I was carrying as a favor for somebody. But Krishna Chaitanya, my bass player, never showed up to the airport. So I had to carry all 4 of them. And so this
Okay.
one young Indian guy, was probably my age, like 25, he started going to me in a very like
He was the airport guy
deprecating
behind the.
way. He worked for the airport.
Okay.
He just started saying, "You'll never get on the plane without his luggage. You have to pay extra
Ooh.
for it." Now
He
I
said it
had
just like that
no
too?
money at all. I had $1 to my name and no
But one
credit
question,
cards.
Raghu. The way that you just said that, did he say it like that, or did he
He
just say
said it like
maybe
that.
he said it in a helpful way. Maybe he said.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He said it with that
Let's hear it again.
New Delhi English accent. You'll never get on the plane with that luggage unless you pay for them. And I was just like, "Oh yes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna."
And you were like,
he goes,
"Don't
"You're not
you
going to
know
get on
I'm
that
a
plane." And he kept on
sadhu?
saying,
You're like, don't you
I
know
was just like,
God
I was
just
going-
makes all arrangements in my life?
"Oh
You-
man."
Was it like that?
It was, yeah, no, I was just like, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Then he goes, "You're never going to get on this plane." And it was a long line. And it was my last dollar on the last day. The next flight is 3 days from now. Back then, they didn't have that many flights back home.
Right.
And then when I finally got to the front of the line, "Hi, I'm carrying some luggage for someone." And the guy was like, "You're going to have to go to the other line." And so I had to go to the back of the other line.
Oh, that hurts.
And
That's
by the time-
humiliating.
Prabhu. And that wasn't humiliating. But then I finally got to that long line and I said, "Hi, I'm carrying some luggage for a friend." And he goes, "I know exactly." Now, this is an older man. He said, "I know exactly what's going on with you. I heard you say to the other person, you're carrying luggage for someone else. You cannot do that." And he just goes, "Goodbye." And he closed the gate of the thing. And I said, and no one was there. And I look around, there's no other passengers on the plane.
So now you're like, I have all of these crates of
And I said,
important
and I
stuff.
said, no, not only that, I have 4 giant pieces of. I have nothing for myself. I'm carrying a little tiny day
And what
pack.
happens now, right? Because you can't get on the flight.
No, not only that. Not only that. The guy said, and the flight is taking off. The flight is closed. And I jumped on the scale. And I still was in sadhu mode. I kneeled. Like
You were
I
wearing a
kneeled
dhoti and everything
on the.
at that
I
point,
was
too,
in a
right?
full dhoti, had a long beard. I looked like a homeless sadhu. And I was kneeling with my hands in prayer. I sang, "Please, sir, I have nothing. I'm a brahmachari."
You went humble. You went humble.
I got real humble. I have nothing. I
played the
have
humble
$1
card.
left. I have $1 left. And he goes,
Okay.
"I'm sorry. The flight is gone. And it's going to cost you $100 to change the flight." I was
Okay.
like, $100? I have $1. And he goes, "And the next flight," he's like continuously just rubbing him. "And the next flight is not till Tuesday or Thursday." And it was Monday. And I was like, "Sir, you can't leave me like this." And he goes, "Goodbye." And he just like about faced and walked away, Delta Airlines. And I was like, Oh my
Why
God.
did you mention Delta Airlines?
I just wanted
It's
to
like you're trying
give
to
a little
tear
poke
that
to
down.
Delta.
Okay.
And so then I just turned around and I was like devastated. I pulled out every humility card I had.
Right.
Nothing worked. And I turned around and that young smug guy was there in a suit and he goes, I told you you would never get on that flight. And I lost my mind. I referred to Raghunath circa 1982. I don't want to get into it, but
All right. You don't have to tell us exactly what you said.
you know what? You need that. I needed that. That was a gift.
That was
It's just-
cathartic.
I was arrogant. I was arrogant. I was what's it called? Utsaha-mayi.
Utsaha-mayi, yeah.
I'm gonna put that in the book. I'm gonna go back and put that in my book.
Utsaha-mayi. There's a term for it.
There's a term for Raghunath's behavior.
And you know what the amazing thing is? Like within the spiritual community, everybody else that's more mature, they're just watching and saying, yeah, he's right there on that stage right now. Utsaha-mayi. Right? Like everybody else can recognize it, except the person that's like, embodying it.
Embarrassing.
Okay, Raghu, that was, but was it cathartic to share it?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Okay.
I didn't share the whole story. It would have been cathartic. It would have been humiliating, but yeah, it was cathartic.
Okay. Thank you for sharing it. It shows your maturity to be able to share that, right?
You
And
got to
be
laugh
able-
at yourself sometimes.
You do. You do. All right. Let's keep reading.
What number are we on? 2, 3?
We just
Daksha
read
began
2.
a sacrifice named Vajapaya. Vajapaya.
Paya.
Vajapaya.
Vajapaya.
Vajapaya. And he became excessively confident of his support by Lord Brahma. And he then performed another great sacrifice named Brihaspati Seva.
Saba.
Sava.
So,
Oh, maybe you pronounced Matthew Seva's name Matthew Sava.
what does Saba mean? We got to figure that out. But so yeah, Daksha. Just notice some of the things here. He's performing sacrifice right now. He's doing external rituals, right? He's a little bit too much concerned with the external, a little bit under concerned with the internal, right? So he's doing these sacrifices, and then it said he became excessively confident of the support of Lord Brahma. Meaning, that's a political concern, right? Like who is the Shiva? Right? I'm the one that's following all the rules. I'm the one that's doing everything right. And I got the support of Lord Brahma over here. Like it's a political consideration. You with me, Raghu?
Yeah, I'm just living in that turbo scenario at the airport.
Okay,
still.
so you looked a little lost right there.
I was not lost. I was distressed and humiliated.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
No.
It's like, what the hell? Why am I so broken?
That was a long time ago, Raghu. You're a new man, and even that was just you were pushed to the limit. You were pushed to the limit.
I think Krishna you have to have that happen. You have to break that false ego down when you get a little,
Yeah.
and sometimes you got to get ahead of a goat, and sometimes you got to lose your cool
That's
in an
right.
airport.
Note that down, Mary. Sometimes you got to get the head of a goat. Note that down, please.
Oh man. Okay, where are we?
Text 4.
Text 4. While the sacrifice was being performed, many Brahma rishis, great sages, ancestral demigods, and other demigods, their wives, and all very nicely decorated, were all very nicely decorated with ornaments, attended from different parts of the universe.
Okay, this is where the story shifts.
I love
now.
that. I love that.
What do you love?
I love the fact that they're coming from different parts of the universe.
Aliens.
Well, no, it's just like we get people, Dusty Rhodes is from Atlanta, and then you get, Krishangi from Finland, and Martine from France, and we're from different parts of the country, but they're getting people from different parts of the universe showing up.
Yeah. So now what's happening is, it's saying that he's doing these sacrifices. These sacrifices, they also had this public social kind of feature to them.
Yeah.
And so not only is Daksha doing these sacrifices, but he's doing them publicly, and all kinds of high society is coming there to attend and witness.
Sure.
And so, that increases that pride even more, right? But the idea is, it was a beautiful event. These events, these sacrifices were, there were sacred ceremonies that were you would walk out feeling spiritually uplifted from them.
Sure.
But they also had that social element. So everybody's dressing nice.
It takes us off track in America when you say, yeah, we're having a sacrifice coming over. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Dress nice. A sacrifice? What the hell? You got to kill a chicken? No, it's not that. It's like a ritual. It's a spiritual ritual. They call it a sacrifice. But
think of it's making something sacred. That's where sacrifice comes from, right?
Oh, all right.
Sacre. You're the philologer here. Raghunath.
I'm a word nerd too.
Yeah. So it's making something sacred. So they're doing these ceremonies. Let's say ceremonies, right?
Let's say ceremony.
Sacred ceremonies. How's that? Sacred ceremonies is our new word for sacrifice. Sacred ceremony. Good. Okay. And so they're doing these sacred ceremonies, and but again, they have that social element. So even and what's going to be described? Well, let's go ahead and read it. It's, Shiva's wife Sati is going to see everybody's going to my father's sacrifice.
The chaste lady Sati, the daughter of Daksha, heard the heavenly denizens flying in the sky, conversing about the great sacrifice being performed by your father. When she saw that from all directions, the beautiful wives of the heavenly denizens, their eyes very beautifully glittering, were near her residence and were going to the sacrifice dressed in fine clothing and ornamented with earrings and necklaces and lockets. She approached her husband, the master of the bhutas, the ghosts, in great anxiety, and she spoke as follows. Sati said, my dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law is now executing great sacrifices, and all the demigods, having been invited by him, are going there. If you desire, may we go also? Right? It's like a big event. Can we just go?
She wants to go.
Yeah, everyone's dressing up. It's going to be fun. All our friends are going to be there. It's like a party.
Yeah, I mean, her sisters.
All my sisters.
She had 15 other sisters, right? Or 15,
I think all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with ornaments given to me by my father and go there with you to participate in the assembly, right? Like, come on, take me out. Let's do something. Can't just sit around here and meditate. There's a party going on. It's a good party. It's a good, clean fun. The demigods are going to be there. Let's go.
Right.
Sick of sitting around the ashram. My sisters, mothers, and husband. Wait. 10?
My sisters.
My sisters, my mother's
sisters. My aunties.
My aunties and their husbands and other affectionate relatives must be assembled there. So if I go, I shall be able to see them, and I shall be able to see the flapping flags. What? And the performance of sacrifice by the great sages.
The whole setup is nicely decorated.
They put up flags.
Yeah.
Okay. These, I want to go see the flapping
just
flags.
Like when you go to don't go on an anti-baseball rant. We don't have much time here right now.
Don't worry. No one likes baseball except you.
When the playoffs come, they begin to decorate the whole stadium with what do they call those?
Flapping flags, banners.
Well, no, they
pendants,
have those
pendants.
Pendants, but they also have those ones that kind of go like
Catholic
this.
Church.
I forget what they call them, but they decorate the place, with all
festoons,
and things like that.
All right, I gotta end on I need a hard stop with this show today.
Okay,
I gotta call the IRS. They open at 7. Let me finish the text.
Okay.
So I just putting that out there.
Flags,
say some prayers. Asking for some prayers for the IRS today, people. So if I go, I shall be able to see them. And I shall be able to see flapping flags and the performance of sacrifice by the great sages. For these reasons, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go.
Okay.
Takeaways, Mara? No, we got to stop. Hard stop.
That's what I mean.
IRS.
Speaking of going, that's what I meant. We got to go.
Okay. We got to go. Okay, but Mara's got some goodies here.
Give up your Instagram and connect to God.
No.
Try to advise you.
I need it for my career.
The real solid is the subtle.
The real solid is the subtle. Kaustubha.
That one, I don't know if that one's going to stick, but keep
I say it all the time.
Okay.
Give your worries up to Krishna.
Oh, Krishna.
There you go. I like that one better.
What will I be holding on to when everything falls apart?
Mm-hmm.
Subtle, perhaps.
Krishna's your bestie.
Krishna's your bestie. T-shirt.
Lord Krishna is not Judge Judy.
No. There you go.
What do you do with your mind in a dirty world?
Mm-hmm.
Pride ruins your qualifications.
There you go.
Everything we have is a gift. And sometimes you got to lose your cool in an airport or get the head of a goat.
Ooh, me likey. Kaustubha, you like that?
I like it. I like it.
You like it? Well, you got to really like it to like it. Oh, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't heard Anna's walk on Wednesday yesterday, check that out too. We loved it. And Patreon members are asking that Roddy Case interview, the astrology interview, is up on Patreon now. If you want to support what we're doing, you can join Patreon.
I was like, no, it's not.
It's not? It's not up?
No, but it will be soon.
Okay. We have a slow upload going here, but it's coming today.
You know what? Sonny shared here. That's what I was talking about. It's called bunting. You know, bunting.
Bunting?
Festoon?
You mean festoons?
That kind of stuff that loops down. Okay.
Yeah, like for a 4th of July.
Yeah, I might have it on 4th of July, yeah.
Various festoons.
They do it with flowers, like in India, right?
They do it with mango leaves, auspicious festoons.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody for chiming in or showing up. Akiko-san, people I didn't say good morning to.